So this is the time of year when people, well, maybe a week ago, when people start talking or thinking about New Year's resolutions and New Year, New Me, and all that kind of stuff. And it's very interesting. I just came across some statistics of New Year's resolutions. This research was done in the States to see how many people actually keep to them. Because I know I wouldn't be really as diligent in these kind of things as I would like to be. So apparently, it's not great, really, the number of people who actually stick to the New Year's resolutions. The most popular things to work on, I can just find it now, were... Here we go. Exercise more, 50% decided for that. Save money, 49%, and eat healthier. Why? 43%. Okay, very good. And let's see now, something like 57% decided to make no New Year's resolutions at all. Respect. Look, at least they're not raising a bar that they have no intention of following. Like so there you go. So yeah, it's interesting that only about 7% of people keep the New Year's resolutions. About 7%, which isn't really wonderful. Let's see now. Of those who made New Year's resolutions, after 1 week, 75% were still successful. After 2 weeks, that number dropped to 71. After 1 month, it drops again to 64. After 6 months, about half people have dropped off. People start dropping off pretty quickly. Only about 7% see their New Year's resolutions through. Now, I think New Year's resolutions are a good idea. I think the church in its calendar doesn't necessarily indicate New Year's resolutions for the beginning of a new year, but like there are seasons of fasting, for example, Lent, where again it's not about kind of losing weight or eating healthier, but it's about self-control, self-discipline. Learn to control my own appetites, not just in food, but in general, like as regards how I use my time, in regards how I use my money, prayer, fasting, almsgiving, these areas, to look at those more intently and see is there something I can improve, something I can add to my program, something I can remove from my program that isn't necessary. But I think they're a good idea. New Year's resolutions are a good idea. I think it's important not to bite off more than we can chew. We spoke about this a couple of days ago as well. To not decide to do something that's simply so difficult and so complicated and so hard that it's never going to happen. That if we want to be successful, small incremental changes are far more likely to be successful than saying, I'm never going to eat chocolate again, I'm never going to eat ice cream again, I'm going to run for half an hour at 5 o'clock in the morning regardless of the weather. No, you won't. Okay, we live in Ireland. You will not get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and run in the rain in January. No, you won't. So, to take something that we can do, something that we will do, obviously accountability, partners, other people are very, very helpful in this, because if you've got someone that you run with or someone that you exercise with, obviously the day you don't feel like it, you're like, come on, Bridie, we're going for the run. And then the day you don't feel like it, they're like, come on. And so it does help. And that's hence why we have these seasons in the church in community, a season of prayer, fasting, almsgiving. So it's good that we keep each other accountable. Okay. Why is all this important? This is important because spiritual progress is important. It is important that we grow in our spiritual lives, because if we're not moving forward, we're actually moving back. It's unlikely we actually just stay put, because that doesn't tend to happen in nature. Like, I think you're kind of moving one direction or the other. You're kind of growing or you're dying. In our spiritual lives, if we're not moving forward, we could well be moving backwards. So then, from a kind of a fervor that we used to have in our 20s, 30s, or in our teens, or when we got our first Holy Communion or confirmation, that kind of fervor and desire and joy that we used to have, maybe we don't have that anymore at all. Maybe we've gone backwards since we were 12. So this can happen. And the main thing, the key thing, like the central thing that we're called to grow in as Christians, as Catholics, is, and I'm sorry if this sounds completely predictable and obvious, but love. That we grow in love. Now, The difficulty with this particular word is that it's way overused and very misunderstood. And even the expression love is love, of course it is, but what do you mean by that? I mean, of course, a phone is a phone, a book is a book, love is love, a table is a table, a candle is a candle. Okay, but what do you mean by that? Because love is loaded with meaning, which is not necessarily conducive to our Catholic or Christian faith at all. Okay, we'll look into that in a second. My dear people, let us love one another, since love comes from God. And everyone who loves is begotten by God and knows God. Anyone who fails to love can never have known God. So to fail in this task of growing in love it's catastrophic. It's really, really bad, because the chances are we could fail to love those around us and actually fail to love God. Now, if we do that, we're in serious trouble. If we live life for the next contract, for the next paycheck, for the next soccer match, for whatever it may be, but it's not a life of love, then we've missed the whole point of our existence. Like it's pretty serious, like, to miss the reason for your creation, your raison d'être, right? Your raison d'être, as we'd say in Ireland. You know, if you miss that, like, then you've everything else is just entirely superfluous. The reason we're here, the reason we're on this planet, is to learn how to love. Because learning how to love makes us like God. If it makes us like God, then we're ready for heaven to be taken into God. If we get this wrong, we miss eternity. So love then isn't just, feelings, doing things we like. It's not just kind of doing some kind of peripheral things that kind of tick the love box. You know, I've given some money to charity there once or twice. I help out in the kitchen, soup kitchen once a year. Nice, do that, please. I mean, do help out in soup kitchens and do those kind of things. But again, another thing which is very, very important for love, which you mentioned here before, is that consistency beats intensity. Every time. Consistency beats intensity. And this is where love is really put to the test, because we were studying the catechism there yesterday, and we came across this issue. Was it yesterday? It must have been yesterday. And came across this issue of intensity versus consistency. Like, when it comes to love, it might be that there's a person who you kind of half know, and if Liam there were to pull a gun on Anya, I might dive in front of her, you know, to protect her, right, and might end up taking the bullet, which would be kind of fairly heroic. I said I might. Maybe I wouldn't. Take her. but and if I did, that would be kind of an intense act of love, right? And it's nice to do those kind of heroic things, but it's actually harder just to kind of keep in regular contact with Anya and ask her every couple of weeks, every couple of months, how you do? Call over to her, say hi, give her time. That's harder, if I'm honest. The kind of one split second jump dive, bullet dead, that's kind of easy, actually. Whereas consistency is much, much harder. And even I think in our minds as well, this idea of kind of heroism, heroic love or heroic actions, kind of appeals to us. But again, those kind of intense one-day events where we go swimming in the sea for charity, on the first, what is that? This is the 1st of January, or is it the 26th? Whenever they do it, for those kind of things, they do a sea swim for charity. It's good. It really is good. I'm not knocking these things at all. But those kind of heroic things where everyone says, "Oh, you went swimming on the 26th of December. Fair play to you." Look, I was just doing it for charity. It's okay, just helping the poor. Who did it for? It's nice and it's good to do these things, right? Okay, but consistency, like helping out weekly at a shelter, is much, much harder. Loving our spouse, our family. Again, one really intense kind of holiday together, where you do spend lots of time together. So that's good. That's good, really. Yes. But if we're not in contact and talking well of each other on a daily basis, the 1 week in the Bahamas doesn't really make up a good marriage. You must be regular, consistent, rather than super intense and rare. Now, apply all of that then to our relationship with God. We're called to love God above all things. Put him first in our lives, like first in our lives. That means even before spouses, family, career, and anyone else we love. That's not easy. That's not easy. Learning to love it's a very difficult school, because we were talking about this not so long ago here. That learning to love is very, very difficult, because you have to love people not too much and not too little. And it's a bit of a tightrope at times, because some people are just really, really lovable, and some people really, really aren't. But they can never know. They can never know that you find them hard and them easy, like them easy to love. And then everyone must be loved equally and loved with all of your heart. And then not fall in love either, and then not kind of be cold with others either. It's a bit of a... I was just talking to a priest who said he remembers an experience he had when he was dealing with this couple, and there was this lady who was in a difficult marital situation. So she used to come to him for advice and so on. And she enjoyed having someone who finally would listen to her and understand and take an interest. And then he'd check in on her every now and again just to see how she was doing, because the situation was fairly rough. And again, there's nothing sinister, no sin here at all. But as the years went on, he was continuing to walk with her. Again, it was like it's all above board, nothing scandalous at all. But then he remembered that at a particular gathering, he saw this lady talking to another man, right? Not her husband, but another man. And obviously she was enjoying his company. She was laughing a lot. And he just said, for the first time I felt this shot of jealousy. I was actually jealous. And then he just realized, oh my goodness, what has happened in my heart here? And so the next time he was talking to her, then he said, look, I think we're going to have to kind of maybe talk a little less, because he said, to be honest, I think I know you better than your husband. And she said, well, you do. And he said, well, that can't be the case. And then she said, and to be honest, I've loved you more than him for a long time. And then he just went, oh my goodness. It's one of those moments where you can't say, well, I've loved you too. You can't. You have to say, oh, that's right. That's nice. So it was just one of those kind of heartbreaking moments where you just have to call a spade, bring the light of truth into the situation. You are married. I'm a priest. I think I've given you too much of my heart. Got to separate. Learning to love in the right way can be absolutely heartbreaking. But if we get it wrong, then we mess up an awful lot. We mess up our interpersonal relationships and risk heaven. Because what's the key component of love that the world has forgotten? This reading is so powerful. Anyone who fails to love can never have known God, because God is love. God's love for us was revealed, how? When he said nice things to us, when he got us nice gifts, also there. But God's love was revealed to us when he sent into the world his only Son. Why was he sent into the world? So that we could have life through him. This is the love I mean. Not our love for God, but God's love for us when he sent his Son to be the sacrifice that takes our sins away. And that's the key. That's like the heart of it. That authentic love requires sacrifice. And if we never learn that here, hopefully we'll get a shot at it in purgatory. But this is the essential lesson: learning how to love, and that an essential component of love will be self-sacrifice. And that's difficult. That's hard. And that requires consistency. That's why those flash in the pan, once-off moments, they're easy because they don't necessarily require sacrifice. But consistency does. as you all know from any New Year's resolution you've ever tried. You know, giving up chocolate for a day or two a week, it's fine, you'll manage. But like to say, I'm going to give it up for the year, to get up even 5 minutes earlier than you normally do and pray a decade of the rosary, it's fine for 2 or 3 or 4 days. But come week 2, you're like, does it really matter? I'm a good person, I recycle, I saw a puppy once and I gave it some of my sandwich, like, why do I have to get up early, you know? And all these kind of, just reeling it all back. Consistency is harder because consistency requires sacrifice. But without sacrifice, we will never learn to love. And that's just the reality. So if we wish to be like God, if we wish to be the saints he's calling us to be, an essential element of that will be that we learn self-sacrifice. And if we do, we'll actually discover in that the ability to love and a form of happiness. We'll actually discover a freedom and happiness in that. Because otherwise, life is all about me and the satisfaction of my desires, which ultimately does not make us happy, ironically. So, we ask the good Lord today, in the grace of this season of Christmas as it's drawing to a close, we thank the good Lord for the season of joy, the season of light. But we ask him for the grace to learn how to love those in our lives, those who are difficult, those who are practically unlovable, just those who maybe don't like us at all and speak badly about us, how to love them, how to love those who try our patience, how to love those who are too lovable, those who are already married or those who are already in situations and we find our hearts leaning too much towards them, how to learn love but not too much, how to love in the right way, how to love disinterestedly. Lord, we ask you to teach us to give our hearts first and foremost to you, that all nations might fall prostrate before you, O Lord.